What's going on? Thursday, November. Fuck me. December 20th. This slate has taken the energy fully out of my sails. Let's just talk. What did you think of last night? How much AD did you have? How bad did you want to kill him? In the middle of it all?
I actually ended up just barely playing last night. I threw one lineup in on FanDuel at the end, but I was behind writing the deep dive on the 12-game slate, and I realized that I was going to make shit lineups if I registered a bunch of stuff, so I was actually responsible and just didn't.
Wow, what's that like? That seems like a different move for this entire community.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't deserve too much credit because by the time I finally finished up my projections, the tournaments I wanted to play were full.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, normally in that situation, it's like, all right, I'm jamming in blind.
Right, yeah. And that's kind of what I tried to do. Like, I ended up just jumping in, like, a couple of the second tournaments on FanDuel. That's all that I could.
There you go. We don't have the best one on the docket today, everybody. 2 games. Without question, the first time that you and I have talked about a 2-game slate. Heat, Rockets, Clippers, Mavs, late start. We're going to 86 the deeper dive for today. So, deep dive, people. Lawfield will still get you for this 2-gamer as an article, but I don't think there's any need for 2 consecutive hours of NBA analysis on these 2 games tonight.
Yeah, I think Eddie can handle this one.
That's me, actually.
I don't know if you can handle this one.
Thank you. It's going to be a little more free form tonight. That's the plan, at least. Otherwise, we'd be doing the deeper dive from 7 to 8 on the Heat, Rockets, and then I'll come in for live before lock to do Clippers, Mavs, and that doesn't seem like anything that anybody wants ever. So, yeah, we don't need it on a 2-gamer. So I'll be around for you guys from 7 to 8 or 7 and change to 8, and then we'll be around in Slack for the long delay until the Clippers Mavs start. This is not great. And FanDuel's running a monster tournament today for reasons that you can tell that no one's paying attention. There's no need for that big of a guarantee on this, but
don't they have like 150K to first or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it popped up on my phone last night when I was like looking at my one lineup, and I was like, oh, cool, FanDuel has a big tournament coming up, and I was like, oh, of course it's on the 2-game slate.
Yep, FanDuel running the clutch shot, 444 to enter, 150K to first. You hit that solo tonight. Congratulations.
Yeah, you probably had like some guy in your lineup that is currently in the G League and hasn't even been called up yet.
For real. Thinking that that's a punt. Somebody popped something yesterday with Zach Randolph at the power forward spot.
I want to say that's twice this year Zach Randolph's been in a winning lineup.
Well, he's just a notorious winner.
What'd you say?
He's just a notorious winner. That's all.
It's the veteranocity, the reason the Kings kept him around, helping out those DFS lineups.
Exactly. Is he on the roster?
Yeah. He's the highest paid guy on the roster.
Is he with the team?
Oh, last I heard, they kept him to help out. They wanted his presence, but he also has been in Memphis like all season.
Ah, there you go. That makes more sense. Just trade him to Memphis for Chandler Parsons.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, I'm sure Parsons would rather be out on the West Coast anyway. All right, you want to do this?
We can.
That's the right way to say that. Alrighty. First up, Heat, Rockets. Heat 102.75 implied total. Rockets 106.25. So this Heat team, you and I have been talking a lot about target scores and stuff. Hassan Whiteside's $8,000 on FanDuel. He's $7,000 on DraftKings. He's one of 3 centers that actually have an ability to like hit a target score today. And yet, not playing all that many minutes, which is terrifying, especially on a 2-game slate. I have looked. Basically, we need to appropriate 96 minutes to Whiteside, Bam Adebayo, Kelly Olynyk, and James Johnson. And basically 20 of those just go to James Johnson because that man only plays 20 minutes a game for some reason.
Yeah, and you can break it down further than that because 48 minutes go to Bam and Whiteside.
Sure.
So, and then, the power forward position obviously is also influenced by Justice Winslow. So, whether
he plays today.
Right. Whether like if he doesn't play, then you in tournaments especially could potentially run some groups of lineups where James Johnson actually plays minutes.
Right.
But as far as the center position goes, it's such an appealing price tag on Whiteside. Like there's no need to go, if for some reason you're playing cash games on this slate, there's no need to go to Whiteside.
No.
But in tournaments, assuming that you're going to get him at lower ownership than like DeAndre Jordan, who I love and we'll talk about, but who should come in at higher ownership. Like Whiteside hasn't played the fourth quarter in his last 3 games. It feels like even longer than that because of the birth of his kid and everything. So he hasn't played the fourth quarter in almost a month. But we've seen that it's kind of just a Spoelstra game by game decision. Like you can't really predict when it's going to happen. This is at least a Houston team where they'll have Capella on the floor. So if Spoelstra wants to play Whiteside, he can. It's not like there's a matchup that's going to keep him off the floor. And he's priced cheap enough where if he does play like 24 minutes, he should probably do fine. And if he plays 32, he's like going to probably be the best play on the slate.
I have him in for 24 minutes right now. And honestly, it's basically just randomized some of these dudes because there's no rhyme or reason.
Right.
Kelly Olynyk's been playing monster minutes over the past couple games. Bam playing monster minutes. Like Olynyk, 32, 26, 28, 24, 30, 22, 28, 20. Like it's a lot.
Yeah, I love Olynyk.
He's, I think, my number one guy on the day. Similarly, Bam, 25, 26, 27, 29, 29. I mean, I feel like those two guys are the priority over Whiteside, but Whiteside has the ability to fill a stat sheet like no one else on this team. 1.58 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days. Like, I think he's like 4th or 5th in the league in that span.
Right.
Not counting like guys that don't play real minutes and get in there from. So it's AD at 1.73, Giannis at 1.65, Hassan Whiteside at 1.58 in half the minutes, mind you, but still, it's kind of how he is anyway.
Right, and that's at least on DraftKings where you can also roster the 2 centers. I mean, if you take that average and you give him 24 minutes, that's still like 38 points without factoring a matchup or anything like that, which on the slate I'm sure is perfectly fine at $7,000. But if he does get those 30 to 32 minutes, he just so easily can go for 50. So I would lean towards being overweight on Whiteside in tournaments just because of the upside and because there's only so many spots on a 2-game slate that you can try and create an edge like that. Yeah. Just know that there's a good chance that Adebayo plays well and plays the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and the key takeaway for this is that if Whiteside does play 30 minutes, he's almost assuredly playing well too. He's not the type of guy that gets extra run when it's not going well.
Right. Yes. Spoelstra hates the guy, and it's really unlikely that it's like, man, you've been playing really bad. Get out there for the fourth. Let's get Bam out of there.
There's going to be some real healthy foul trouble going on for Whiteside to just have to soak that up.
Yeah.
They'd be more likely to dust off Udonis Haslem or something first, who I believe is still on the team.
For whatever it's worth, yeah, he is. And for whatever it's worth, they haven't played this year. They played twice last year. Whiteside did get over 30 minutes in both games. It's worth virtually nothing, but I just figured I would say it.
Oh, God. So what would be your preferred style of play on a 2-game slate like this? Obviously, avoiding cash is better for your sanity. Are you more of would you want to jam 150? Would you be more likely to just play single entry 3 max, 5 max stuff? How does it change your thought process?
I'd probably play whatever I normally play. Like if I'm a 150 guy, I'd probably still play it. You just want to, I think, be more creative with what you're doing. You don't want to run like 150 lineups using basically your normal projections. Like I would definitely designate percentages of the lineups you're running to, more so than normal, like to game stacks and also to just, weird situations, whether it's, Bam Adebayo or like the example I used on the podcast last night. I don't expect Boban to play tonight. He hasn't been playing even in matchups where he can, but going against DeAndre Jordan, there's certainly a non-zero chance that we get one of those weird rotations where like Gortat plays 18, Boban plays 12 or something like that. It's not going to happen very often, but if Boban somehow finds his way on the floor for 12 minutes and you're part of the 1% that has him, you're in a really good spot. So like not doing that over 150 lineups, obviously, but just looking for any situation where there's like a good point per minute producer that is kind of like one heartbeat away from getting minutes. And just, trying to put yourself in a position where if something goes weird, you can win the slate.
There you go. Oh, I'm with you completely. So I don't really have anything else to add to that. You really have to approach these things with a slightly more like logical side, because on a night like last night, you could have one of 9 different teams in a lineup on FanDuel, whereas now, like, getting one of these games to be an outlier game increases every single person in that game's ceiling. And if the Heat Rockets game finishes 90 to 86 and Clippers Mavs goes 120 to 112, like, you best believe most of what you need is in Clippers Mavs.
Yep.
Josh Gordon walking away from football again.
Oh, really?
Apparently. For chat, I'm trying to scroll down to find out where the news came from.
God, I love Josh Gordon.
Yeah, me too. Bummer. Seems like a weird time to do it, but that guy has had his struggles in life, so I assume best of luck to him. I don't think he's taking this off because he wants to go on a walkabout or something.
Yeah.
Josh Richardson feels like the only piece of Miami where I'm like, okay, he's going to play 35 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, he's the one that I think you're clearly most confident in the minutes. He's productive enough. He's perfectly fine. So, yeah.
Yeah, and he's the guy that I feel like needs the least amount of explanation here.
Yeah, no question. I mean, he gets a little bit more ball handling responsibility without Dragic. He has around a 25% usage rate. He should play 36 minutes.
Yeah. Speaking of Dragic, gone for a couple weeks, knee scope.
Yep.
It's probably, I mean, that's like good for the Heat outside of the fact that they'd be better off trading him, but there's too many dudes here. They run some weird lineups.
Yeah, I wish like 3 more guys would go get their knees scoped.
Or take a break like Josh Gordon.
Yeah. I Googled it. I don't see anything on that.
Apparently it's on his Twitter.
Yeah.
And I don't follow him, obviously. All right, let's talk Kelly Olynyk. I've got him in for 26 minutes, 5,400 on FanDuel, 4,700 on DraftKings. He's just, if he's going to continue to play north of 25 minutes, and I think that there's very little doubt that he would continue to do that. He looks fantastic. He's without question my favorite power forward play on FanDuel. I assume I would feel comparable on DraftKings, although the price is way better on DK, only 4,700. He should be a staple of lineups, right?
Yeah, and the good thing about him, it's not like he's just scoring dependent. He's averaged, without Dragic on the floor this year, he's averaged just shy of 1 fantasy point per minute, but he contributes some in the way of rebounding. He can pass, he can score. So he's someone that just kind of fills the stat sheet when he's out there. And the issue has just been getting him minutes. But, as you said, he's been getting plenty of minutes lately. He's playing at the 4. James Johnson's not playing a ton of minutes. With Dragic out, you're getting Winslow playing more minutes with the ball in his hands, which, has a trickle-down effect and opens up minutes for Olynyk. So it's really difficult not to like Olynyk.
Is there anything you actively don't like for the Heat?
No, I mean, like I hate Tyler Johnson from a DFS perspective, but he should play enough minutes on a 2-game slate to be in play. It's a 2-game slate. There's not going to be anyone that like is a bad play.
Pricing is interesting on Tyler Johnson and Wade. Wade is 4,900 on FanDuel, 5,900 on DK. Tyler Johnson, 4,200 on FanDuel, 5,100 on DK. So both of those guys look better from a point per dollar perspective on FanDuel than they do on DraftKings.
Yeah. Wade has a higher ceiling than Johnson, right? Even though I expect him to play less minutes.
Yeah, I would say so. Let me look at it.
So, I mean, that's a spot where...
Especially here against like Harden and Paul.
Right. So, obviously... your spots are limited on a 2-game slate, but that's a spot where I would want to pay extra close attention to projected ownership, just because, I think that projection wise, they're similar. I think Tyler Johnson probably has the higher floor just because he plays more minutes. But if people if Winslow's out and Johnson gets the start, we know people just flock to starters. And Johnson, if you're playing cash games, just play Johnson. But in tournaments, I think that chances are if Tyler Johnson were in the starting lineup, you're just going to see much higher ownership on Johnson than Wade, and Wade outscores Johnson enough that Wade would probably be the better tournament play
Yeah.
if you had to choose between them.
I'm with you. I don't have much else here. I keep an eye on Justice Winslow. It's probably better for everyone in the DFS community if he doesn't play. Although, I don't know, if he stays super questionable, he might even be more valuable on a slate like this.
Yeah, we all know your track record of locking in those questionable guys on FanDuel.
Yeah, stay tuned tonight from 7-ish to 8 p.m. where I will dictate whether or not Justice Winslow plays if we don't have the news. I'll let you know by my exposure. I have 2% right now on that first crunch, so I would assume that he is the high scorer of the Heat. Let's move on to the Rockets. On the back-to-back, favorites in Miami. Miami's just been garbage this year. Miami's 29th in effective field goal percentage. That is really rough for a team that I wouldn't expect to end up at 29. What's even crazier, they're second in offensive rebounding rate. They just keep getting the ball back and keep missing.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
That's hard to do. I mean, I guess, if you're going to keep missing, you're going to have the opportunity. Well, the rates don't matter all that much in this, but certainly having the opportunities to get offensive rebounds. Harden is 12,400 on this slate, 11,600 on DraftKings. He's the most expensive person on DK by $3,200. He's the most expensive person on FanDuel by $3,600. Cool. That makes it easy. What do you do with James Harden on a day like today?
I mean, it's going to be tough with the lack of value, but if I can get him in my lineups, that would be awesome because he's just clearly likely to be like the highest scorer on the slate, possibly by a wide margin. But it'll probably just be kind of tough to get there.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier. It's a little bit more palatable, I think, on FanDuel because on a day like today, you can pretty easily burn a $3,500 spot and save yourself a little bit of average cash. But on DraftKings, that is a really tough sell. How often do you think James Harden is in the winning lineup on a tournament on DraftKings today at that price point? Do you think it's different than it would be normally?
Not really, because there's still enough underpriced guys too. So on FanDuel, obviously you can drop the spot, but on DraftKings you have like $3,700 PJ Tucker in this game. Yeah. You have $4,700 Olynyk or whatever it is. Like there's still cheap enough guys where I think you can probably get the Harden, and the mid range isn't that strong. So it's not like there's a ton of opportunity cost either. I still think that Harden probably is someone that we should be trying to get in and is likely to be in a winning lineup.
Yeah, I got a massive amount of the Rockets, in particular Harden, Capella, Paul, the artist formerly known as Eric Gordon, PJ Tucker. It's tough. Tucker's price on FanDuel is a struggle, $4,600. Not the type of guy that's going to return a lot on that investment, but $3,700 on DraftKings on a guy that's soaking up 35-ish minutes is kind of a no-brainer there. Any parts of... do you really have any interest in anybody outside of the quote-unquote Big Five here?
No, with the caveat that it's a 2-game slate, and like Daniel House and Gerald Green are the kinds of guys that I was saying, like just making sure that you have some of them, because there's a world where they, like if you're playing a bunch of lineups, there's a world where Gerald Green just plays 24 minutes and hits like 6 threes or something.
Yeah, he is perfect on FanDuel tonight at 3,500. Like that is the kind of guy where you can be overly aggressive with him with basically no downside on the hope that he finds himself being the normal Gerald Green. Strikes me as the type of person that would enjoy being in Miami. I just don't know if that would negatively impact him. Although, surprisingly, I feel like them playing on the back-to-back with Miami in the second spot is beneficial to them from a partying standpoint. Would have been really difficult to go out last night and really get turned, as the kids say.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, like if they were able to get in a night early, makes it rough, but they probably just got in. Well, I'm sure Harden went out because he can't stop himself.
Right.
What's your preference for some of these guys? Any particular order to the studs? I
James
get a ton
Harden.
of Chris Paul, but I just can't stop getting a ton of Chris Paul.
Yeah, I mean, James Harden won for me, obviously. I would say Capella too, but with Jordan and Whiteside being cheaper, I think that maybe Paul goes ahead of Capella just because of the position. Eric Gordon obviously is not in the same category as those guys. He sucks, but he'll play minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think as far as guys that I'd be most likely to play, like Harden is the one that I'm prioritizing out of the studs, and then PJ Tucker from a value perspective on DraftKings.
Okay. I was a little behind on Nate Duncan and Danny Leroux's shooting guard rankings podcast, and they were talking about Eric Gordon this morning. Gordon's shooting like 30% on catch and shoot threes. He's shooting better off the dribble. It's just like oddly atrocious on what is essentially a wide open shot. Bad. Real bad.
I mean, he's got to turn it around at some point, you would think, but it's almost Christmas.
Yeah, maybe he won't. He's 30 now. I don't know. He's putting a lot of miles on himself since he's been in Houston, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to pause this little video to say, make sure you hit that like button. And you should comment after this video. We are still doing 24 days of giveaways. You have the chance to win a premium all-access monthly membership. 1 month free just by liking this video and commenting. I don't have the slightest idea on what people should comment for this one. I mean, I'm trying to find something that's a decent slant for this game, but I got nothing. Comment what you're asking Santa for Christmas. I want to know what everybody wants under their tree on Tuesday. Because what you are getting under your tree on Tuesday, if it's technology based, like maybe like an iPad or a laptop, you could open that up and get me under your Christmas tree. We'll be doing a brief live before lock before the noon start, Christmas Day, where I will announce the winner of the premium all access annual subscription. So tune into that. You could win that. I can be under your tree, and you could be with me for 365 straight days. Can't beat it. Won't cost you a dime.
Better than looking at Josh's face, you could also open it and read the deep dive article that I write on Christmas.
That is also a good idea. You should do that as well. Anything's better than looking at my ugly mug. You're much better off looking at the Bitmoji of my face, a much more attractive version of me. Alrighty, want to head to LA?
Yeah.
Los Angeles Clippers hosting the Dallas Mavericks. 112.5 implied total for the Clips. 109 for the Mavs. Clippers defense has been really, really bad lately. 6% worse than average fantasy points per possession. Mavs, pretty much the opposite. 4% better than average. We'll start on the Clippers side where, I don't know, they play today. Tobias Harris is 8,200 on FanDuel, 7,800 on DraftKings. He feels really safe. Montrezl Harrell has been a shell of himself, or at least a shell of the first half of this season. Any priorities coming out of LA tonight?
I think Gallinari's price is still too cheap. Like Harris is obviously the guy I prefer if I can get to him, but after Harris's last game, we saw his price tag real quickly jump back up to where there's more separation between him and Gallo. So I think that like point per dollar Gallo is probably a better play. If you can get to Harris, then by all means. And then Harrell, I mean, in tournaments, I think it's still fine because the price tags come down, and we've seen even in matchups against traditional centers where they could go Gortat, Boban. They haven't been. Like they've still been running Harrell out there. So I think that he's perfectly fine. It's just not a spot where I expect more than 24 to 26 minutes for him because DeAndre Jordan's going to play like 32. But Harrell will be out there against Dwight Powell, which should be a good 16 minutes where Harrell just goes absolutely nuts.
Ooh. Someone in chat says, get Avery Bradley. Yikes. Yet I will have him. He came up with 58% of my crunches. I hate it. I think the guy to really play, though, Pat Bev. 5,200 on FanDuel, but just 4,300 on DK. Lou Will says, or apparently Lou Will is questionable, but we're not supposed to read too much into that questionable tag. Patrick Beverley's been playing increased minutes over his last few. Let me make sure I get the totals correct. Beverly 31, 30, and 26 in his last three. He had a 20-minute game sprinkled in there on December 11th, but 34 before that. If he's going to be playing 30 minutes at 4,300 on DK, very similar to the PJ Tucker discussion in that that's enough minutes that's the kind of value you want to take advantage of on a slate like this.
Yeah, and something that really stands out because his minutes had kind of been up in blowouts, and we still weren't seeing a lot of him playing alongside Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But in that game against Portland, where Beverly played 30, just shy of 31 minutes, Gilgeous-Alexander played almost 38. They played a ton of time alongside each other, assuming Popcorn Machine is correct. So that's right. Yeah, I mean, but that's a really big thing. We saw it earlier this year where basically they both lost value when they were only playing point guard. But as soon as Doc Rivers started playing them alongside each other, Gilgeous-Alexander and Beverly both became better plays. And if we're gonna take anything away from the Portland game, the last game they played, then that is something that Rivers started doing, and it makes both of them more appealing.
Pat Bev, 0.74 fantasy points per minute over his last 30. It's not bad. It's not great. Mavs, 27th in turnover rate. I think that fits pretty well for someone like Pat Bev, where you're not necessarily relying on his scoring acumen. So if they're going to gack the ball all over the place, particularly if Dennis Smith is playing today, which he may or may not, is there anybody else you want to point out from the Clippers? Anybody you want to, I don't want to say totally avoid, but anybody that is not on your radar?
I don't mind taking a chance in tournaments on $3,400 Gortat either. He only played 10 minutes against Nurkic and Portland, but certainly a chance that he plays reasonable minutes here against DeAndre Jordan. We saw Gallinari close out that game against Portland at center. Nurkic ended up not being on the floor to close that game because of Gallinari. I don't imagine that Dallas is taking Jordan off the floor, so I don't know that the Clippers can get away with closing with Gallinari. Not that Gortat would close, but just saying that's some center minutes that trickle-down effect are still available at different points in the game. So I don't know that Gallinari gets any minutes at the 5 here, which I just think that Gortat could get 18 to 20.
Yeah, I don't mind that call whatsoever. Any guesses as to who the most chalky player on both DK and FanDuel is today?
I'm guessing it's from this game.
0 for 1 on that one.
Oh, what, did ownership projections just come out?
They did.
Oh, okay. Harden?
Yes, you would be correct.
Yeah.
Any guesses as to what it would be? We'll give you DraftKings.
68.
Oh, you're in the ballpark. It's super close. It's a number that wants to be an 8, but can't get all the way there.
63.
Threes are like 8s without their sides.
Yeah.
That's the kind of analysis you get on a Tuesday or a Thursday 2-gamer. Compare the shapes of numbers. Riveting shit. Ridiculous. Only 19% on Pat Bev. That is something I like on DraftKings quite a bit. 40% across the big guys on the Clippers. By big guys, I mean Harris, Harrell, and Gallinari, the 3 highest salaried guys. Let's talk about the Dallas side now. Kind of all, I don't want to say all hinges on Dennis Smith Jr.'s availability, but him being in this lineup is pretty big. We have him in the ownership projections right now. If he plays, let's start there. What is your interest in DSJ?
Trying to see his price.
5,400 on both sites.
Very. I mean, I imagine if he plays, he's not limited. Why would they bring him back early?
Yeah.
So assuming that he's going to get his 28 to 30 minutes, I would be very interested just because he's obviously inconsistent, and normally there's a ton of risk in him, but there's much less on this slate, especially with a $5,400 FanDuel tag.
Yeah. So I wholeheartedly agree with your call. He hit the 90% ownership cap I put in today at 29 minutes. That's probably a bit more aggressive than I'd like to be with Dennis Smith Jr. today, but yeah, if he's playing, he's too cheap. Speaking of people that are too cheap, DeAndre Jordan, 7,200 on FanDuel. Dallas looks good from a FanDuel perspective tonight.
Yeah, I mean 7,400 on DraftKings for Jordan, I think is really good too.
Yeah.
Like he should just absolutely, even taking narrative out of it, he should just absolutely wreck this front court. Like Marcin Gortat and Montreal Harrell, like who's keeping DeAndre Jordan from grabbing 20 rebounds?
No one.
Right. I think he actually did grab 20 rebounds last time, like 23.
Hmm. All right, let's talk about Luka. 8,200 on FanDuel, 8,400 on DraftKings. I barely get him just because of his, I guess, lack of volatility. Is that something you would is honest like actually better on a slate like this?
So for one, I think that maybe we're finally seeing him add that to his game. He has had 3 monster games in the last week or so.
No
Um,
DSJ though.
right, yeah. So I mean, I think that matters some. Like you get his assist percentage up to 26% when DSJ doesn't play, so that would certainly have an impact. But if DSJ's in, then yeah, I think that it's not even that he's overpriced. It's just that it's even harder for him to outperform that tag. But the point you made is good. Like on the 2-game slate, there's only so many options, and so taking someone who's really unlikely to bust and is really likely to just give you those 40 points or whatever that you projected him for, it certainly does have value. The problem is just that the price tag, I think, is getting kind of awkward. Like if you're trying to get James Harden in, allocating $8,400 to Luka means that it's going to be really difficult for you to also get like a DeAndre Jordan or a Hassan Whiteside in there who have the same upside, that have just as much upside as Luka does.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really tough spot for him. And I mean, I feel probably more safe with him putting up a solid day than just about anything outside of the James Harden class. But I
If I
have a
go,
hard time believing that he is the linchpin at shooting guard tonight, and it's not like an oddly hot Wes Matthews or Eric
right.
Gordon or Rodney McGruder, or this is the game that Avery Bradley decides to be a NBA player.
Right. I mean, I think that if I don't have Harden, then Luka absolutely is someone that I want a lot of. It's just from a roster construction standpoint, once you take that one superstar, you can only get a couple guys from the mid range, and then you have to go cheap. And I think that taking Luka from like the top of the mid range instead of a Jordan or a Whiteside or other guys that are a little bit cheaper puts you in a kind of tough situation.
Miles in chat just asked a question. How negatively correlated are Harris and Gallo, given that Doc intends to give more time at the 5 for Gallo? I mean, they're not today.
Yeah.
They're not like... I would probably never really intend to play them together on a normal size slate.
Gallo and Barnes?
No, Gallo and Harris.
Oh, you said Gallo Barnes. I was trying to figure out.
Oh, did I?
Yeah. I was trying to figure out what the correlation was.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mean that. So, like, I mean, on a day like today, you're not really worried about stuff like that. On a bigger slate, though, they tend to do too many similar things for me to want to have them in the same lineup.
Yeah, same for me. Like that's something that on a 2-game slate I'm not going to be as concerned about, just because raw points are raw points. And if Harris goes out there and scores his 55 and it means that Gallo gets 30 instead of 40, like you still got 85 points or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, in general, I don't like playing them together.
Yeah, same page there. Wes Matthews is the only other guy that we haven't really... I mean, I guess Harrison Barnes, but 5,800 for Harrison Barnes, I think everybody should just know that that's slightly too cheap for him.
But, yeah, especially if DSJ is out and you're getting like a 27% usage Harrison Barnes.
Yeah. Man, it's such an important piece of news that, without question, we will probably not have at 8 o'clock lock. So, it's going to be a fantastic day to play on FanDuel. Oh man, I'm gonna dictate the entire slate.
Oh yeah. So you can just jam all the DSJ and Justice Winslow.
Any down the roster guys that you want to have a piece of? I mean, JJ Barea tends to be the kind of guy that you would want. We're also projecting him for a ludicrous 32% ownership on FanDuel. I'm gonna go ahead and come in under that one.
Yeah, I mean, I do like Barea really regardless, but especially if DSJ is out, like you're not going to ever project him whether Smith's in or out for like 26, 28 minutes. But we've seen that it happens, like when Smith plays poorly, or potentially if Jalen Brunson really sucks. Like Barea can still play in that range, and if he does, he's just such a good contributor that he smashes his price tag.
Any Powell or DFS or Devin Harris? Would you want to have shares of those guys?
Powell, for sure, just because he's such a good producer.
Yeah.
Again, this is talking if you're playing 150 lineups in tournaments. Just because if something weird happens and you have that 10 or 15% chance game where DeAndre Jordan picks up 2 fouls early and Powell plays 22 minutes instead of 16 or something like that, he should have plenty of success here. So I think Powell's like the high enough upside guy. If Dennis Smith Jr. is in, it's really tough to find a path where Dorian Finney-Smith plays enough minutes for me to care, considering he's like a 0.7 or 0.65 fantasy point per minute guy.
Yeah.
But Powell, like if he gets 5 extra minutes, it's the difference in him being like a mediocre play and a good play.
Totally agree. Favorite play out of this game?
DeAndre?
I think we're done.
Yes.
36 minutes. We did it. Fastest show we'll ever have.
Yeah, that's probably pretty safe.
Hit that like button and comment when this video ends and let me know what you guys want for Christmas. It's not coming from me. I once had a pen pal tell me that he wanted me to get him a Sega CD.
A what?
I don't know, like the Sega that came out after the Sega that you understand. It was on discs instead of cartridges.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what he asked me for me as a gift from his pen pal. Never met the kid. Never met him. Fantastic. Out of his mind. Didn't get a letter back. Weirded me out, bro. If you're listening, I hope you got that Sega CD. Like and comment. 24 days of giveaways. You have the opportunity to win a free 1-month premium all access subscription and the opportunity to win a premium all access annual package that I will announce on Christmas Day. Like Santa, Josh. That's all I've got. Check out the deep dive coming out from Laffy, probably at a reasonable time today, depending on when he wants to write it. No deeper dive tonight. There's just no necessity to have 2 straight hours worth of breakdown on these 2 games, but I will be around and live before lock from 7-ish until 8 o'clock. Hopefully we get some Clippers Mavs news, in particular Dennis Smith Jr. and I guess Lou Williams. That will be relevant, although I don't really see them rushing him back right now. Adam, anything else?
No.
Alrighty. Best of luck, everybody. We're out of here.